Lance, I want to piggyback on this one. In general, because we've often discussed that there's going to be a before and after pandemic, especially related to remote working.
Yeah.
Well, how do you see recruiting in general? I know it's a very broad topic, but recruiting in general, how is it affected? What do you think the after pandemic is going to be compared to how it used to be?
So I'll give you a couple stories, from talking to clients, because I find this fascinating right now because we're going through organizational change, cultural, business. It's impacting lots of businesses, right? One studio I know is they went from about 30,000 square feet down to 3,000. They've literally divested of their bricks and mortar, and they have a small sort of presentation office for clients. And they just said it's working better than we expected. And the what they said was a lot of people with children, it's impacted the families positively. And they're in, children's entertainment. So we used to joke years ago, all these people making all this stuff for kids, but nobody has time to go home and see them.
That's it.
So
they're working to take care of everyone else's kids and not their own.
Pretty much, right. And the kids are growing up, playing video games. Anyway, so that's one element that I've seen. Another one, I was talking to a client who said that they are conceptually coming up with 2 price plans for service work, So, Hollywood studio comes to them and says, we need, 300 shots done or 5,000 shots or whatever the movie is. And they say, here's the in-studio price. Here's the remote price. The remote price is cheaper because they don't have to maintain the building, the HVAC, all the expenses that go in, just the maintenance of a facility, right? Aircon, plumbing, how many toilets, all that operational stuff, right?
And giving the client the choice between those 2 different production sort of scenarios?
That's been a conversation. I don't know how far it's evolved, but that was the concept a few months ago.
Yeah.
Because the employees, some of them are saying, I don't want to work in the studio. I'd rather work from home.
Naturally.
And so I think there's also going to be an attraction factor for any employer, right? And you've seen it in the big tech firms like Facebook saying, we're going to take 50% of the people back, or Apple said everyone's going back. Like,
did they really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think they're going to have to walk back from that statement at some point because otherwise everyone's just going to march over to Google and say goodbye, Apple. But Apple is very specific about their security on all their product and all their marketing and product launches. So they take this stuff as a cultural thing, and their comfort would be, no, we do this in a controlled environment. But we'll see. It's something that will evolve over the next 18 to 24 months, and we're all going to be part of the test group, I guess. Right? We are the sample. Yeah. And I don't know if you remember, like the first Halo game that came out. Bungie made it. I think they had 16 animators in house and 30 remote, and that's got to be 20 years ago or 18 years ago when the first Halo came out. So, people have been doing remote work for an awful long time.
Yeah.
It just isn't comfortable for a lot of studios, or hasn't been. Or if it was service work from, a Disney or an Activision or any of those big companies, they usually say none of it can go out of house.
It's that exactly. It's a legal thing. Exactly.
Yeah. Or we'll take the project away from you. Right.
Yep.
And so that's another one of my curiosities. Did those large clients go back to that format, let's say a year from now?
That will be the question. That's the one that's on everyone's mind, right? Because they've already proven, the pandemic forced them to prove it can be done. So it's kind of hard to walk it back and be like, oh no, this can't be done. It's like, oh really?
Yeah, it's going to be difficult because the studio and even VFX studio that were notorious to keep everything in-house, now that they had no choice but to provide those remote desktop connection to everyone. Those that figure out a way to keep this flexibility with their own employees, freelancers, and all that are going to have a huge advantage to the others, which means that arguably they'll be able to produce more and better work. So does it mean that at some point, let's take Disney as a big client for VFX Studio because of all the Marvel and Star Wars and all that. If they impose that everyone needs to be back, somehow it means that they can only work with those studios that do not provide this flexibility and somehow might not be able to provide the same volume of work. So it's kind of a catch-22 at some point. That's going to be very interesting to see how it evolves over time.
Interesting, that's for sure.
Yeah, we're all waiting.